You're thinking of buying a house, and you may have wondered what it means to work with a buyer's agent. What does it cost? Who pays for it? And do you even need one? Hi, I'm Susan Pruden. I'm with Century 21 New Millennium, and we're going to cover 3 things in this video. Understanding whom agents represent and why that's important to you. Second is how I work with buyers, because not all agents do the same things the same way. And third is the actual buyer representation agreement itself. Why is it important for you to understand whom agents represent? Let's assume that you do something that you may have already done it, which is go to an open house. And after you walk around, the agent says to you, "So, what do you think?" And you say, "We love this house. This is a great house." Did you know that if you intend to make an offer on that house, the agent is obligated to tell the seller what you said? That could impact your ability to negotiate. The takeaway is this: in Maryland, all agents represent the seller, any seller, unless you have a written buyer representation agreement in place with one of those agents. So if you call the number on the sign or you go into an open house, whoever you talk to represents the seller. That means that you can ask your questions and then stop talking. Keep your opinions, your personal information, and your enthusiasm to yourself. Matter of fact, you should just assume anyone you talk to is working for the seller and understand that they're going to get as much information from you as they can to benefit the seller, because that's their job. So now you may think, but I want somebody to do that for me. And that's where a buyer's agent and a buyer representation agreement come into play. Well, you think, I understand why I would want one, but I don't know you. I'm not sure I want to enter into a contract with you. It boils down to one word, and that word is confidentiality. If you and I have an agreement in place, I must treat your motivation and your buying strategy confidential. Let's assume I do take you out to look at some houses, and one of them is perfect for you. You tell me, you know what? We are going to make an offer on this house. We think it's a little overpriced, so it's going to come in a little low. But honestly, if it meant getting this house, we would pay full price, maybe even a little more. Here's the conversation between me and the listing agent when you and I do not have a contract between us. The listing agent says, "Hey, Susan, thanks for showing my listing. What did your buyers think?" And I say, well, first, I do not have a buyer representation contract in place with these buyers, and I've disclosed to them that I am a sub-agent of the seller. That being said, they love the house. They said they're going to make an offer. They think it's a little overpriced, so they're probably going to come in a little low, but they said that they like the house so much they'd pay full price or maybe even a little more if that's what it took to get the house. Probably not what you were hoping for, right? Here's the conversation between me and the listing agent when we do have an agreement in place. Agent says to me, "Hey, Susan, what do your buyers think?" Here's what I say. My clients think that the house suits their needs, and they're probably going to make an offer. Are there any terms that are important to the seller that might help us? And by the way, could you send me the disclosures? That's a big difference, right? So now you think, well, okay, it makes sense. I understand why I would want to enter into a contract with you if you're going to show us houses. But I still don't know you. I'm not sure I want to get locked in to a long-term contract with you. And that's where a one-day buyer representation contract comes into play. It gives you and I both a chance to decide if we're a good match for one another. It also gives me the opportunity to decide if you're realistic about what it takes to buy a house. If you want a 4-bedroom house with 3 full baths and a 2-car garage, and you're only willing or able to pay $100,000 for it, we're not going to work together, because that's not realistic in our market. The rest of how I work with buyers is covered under the agreement itself, so let's take a look at it. The first part of the document just defines all of the parties, you, me, and my broker. Next, we'll broadly define what it is you're looking for. This will be something as generic as a single-family home in Prince George's County. Then, I typically ask for a 4-month contract because that gets us through looking at homes, making offers, getting through the contingencies, and then all the way to closing. But it doesn't tie either of us into a longer period because we all know that plans change. However, it all depends on your particular circumstances, and what you and I agree to is a reasonable amount of time. Can either of us terminate the contract? Absolutely, as long as we're still in the looking at houses stage. Either of us can terminate the contract by putting it in writing and it's done. If you're already under contract on a specific property, then no, the agreement can't be terminated. However, if you feel that I'm no longer acting in your best interests, or I go AWOL, then just call my broker. His number's at the bottom of the agreement and he'll step in. The next section lays out your responsibilities to me. In short, we're in an exclusive relationship and you agree to call me when you see a house you're curious about, rather than calling the number on the sign or in the advertisement. This goes for houses that are sold by real estate agents, directly by the owner, and even new construction. We'll talk about open houses. I know I can't keep you out of them, but there are a few things that will smooth the way. The next section details my obligations to you, that I have to use my knowledge and expertise to help you find a house, and then assist you with that same knowledge and experience in navigating the way to closing. Paragraph 7 is probably one of the more important paragraphs because it deals with money, how my company gets paid, and what your obligations are in that regard. My company expects you to pay them a commission of at least 2.5% of the sales price, plus a $425 administrative fee. And while I don't collect any fees up front, some agents do, this represents your obligation at the closing table. But there's good news. The very next paragraph says that the seller may pay the compensation on your behalf, and in fact, most sellers do. The administrative fee is your responsibility and will be collected at the settlement table as a part of your closing costs. But what if the seller isn't willing to pay the full amount? Then you agree to make up the difference. Just so you know, in our initial consultation, I'm going to ask how you wish to proceed with listings where the seller is not paying the entire commission. You will always know before looking at a house if this is a property where you will have to make up the difference. Once in a blue moon, the seller says he'll pay more than 2.5%. In this case, you authorize my company to receive the additional compensation. My personal agreement is that in any transaction where the seller is paying more than 3% commission to my company, then I'll pay your administrative fee out of the additional compensation. Paragraph 8A asks, among other things, for you to acknowledge that I am being retained as your real estate agent. I'm not your attorney, your tax advisor, lender, appraiser, home inspector, or any other profession that you might seek answers from. So don't be surprised if I can't answer some questions even when I know the answer, because there are some things that are outside the scope of my real estate license. I'll always tell you when I can't answer a question and why, and 99% of the time I can send you to the resource that will answer your question. One last thing I really want to cover, and that is I'm not going to tell you what to do. That's your decision. I'm going to give you options, and I may tell you which options have the best chance of succeeding, but I'm not going to tell you what price to offer or what repairs to ask for, because ultimately you're the one that has to be satisfied with the terms of the contract and the condition of the property. I'm not going to live in the house with you, and I promise you I'm not going to pay your mortgage. So you are the one that has to make those decisions and be satisfied with them. And with that, the last caveat is this. I am not an attorney, so if you have questions about the legal ramifications of signing this contract, then you should seek competent legal counsel. I strongly urge you, please read the entire agreement. It's only 3.5 pages long. So if you're ready to get started, let's schedule our initial consultation, and then I'll set up the buyer representation agreement for electronic signatures. If you have any questions, feel free to call me or email me, and I can't wait to get started.